Today is Saturday, March 22nd, 2025. Welcome to the Checking From Behind podcast. I'm your host, Zach, joined as always by Preston. Let's hop right into things because are you ready for some expansion hockey in the NHL between Houston and then Atlanta? They're trying for a third time reportedly.
No, I'm not ready for expansion hockey.
You're...
I'm call me a boomer. I don't like expansion. I don't know. I don't think we need 34 teams in the league.
Did you enjoy... Well, let me reword this. Did you not like it when they brought Vegas or Seattle in, though?
I enjoyed when Vegas first got in, I was really into the idea of having another team. I thought it was cool because, my whole life there'd only been 30 NHL teams. Because technically what they did in the expansion, I think in 2000, they brought in Minnesota and Columbus, but I was 2. So
Minnesota was in expansion. They weren't.
They had the North Stars, but then they moved to Dallas. Yeah.
Okay. And then they just put another team in Minnesota.
Yeah,
right?
and then Columbus was a brand new organization, brand new city.
And then what was it? 5 years before then, or 7 years beforehand, they brought in Tampa and Florida.
It was Tampa and San Jose, I think, 92, something like that. Yeah.
It's crazy to me how I get they keep trying in Atlanta because it's a really big market.
I think the Thrashers would still be around if they had legitimate owners and they didn't suck.
Did they not have actual owners? Was it owned by a company or something?
So it was owned by somebody, and the team wasn't doing well financially or in the standings, and they sold the team to a holdings group, and the holdings group didn't really want the Thrashers. They really wanted the Hawks, the basketball team, but the Thrashers were part of the deal, and they didn't really invest any money into the team, or they didn't really care.
And the NHL couldn't save it.
Well, yeah, nobody was going to the games. The team sucked. It was just a dumpster fire.
There's been certain situations where I don't want to bring this team up right away, but the Sabres, though, Gary Bettman had to step in and save them.
Yeah, that was a bit of a different situation because the team was bankrupt.
Yeah,
it was bankruptcy. Yeah, it was an ownership issue. It wasn't the fans weren't going to the games. It was the owner had no money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And with this is crazy because us talking about this, I feel so young. Obviously you're only a couple years older than me, but your knowledge with this type of stuff is heights above mine and stuff. So it's kind of interesting.
You also got to remember I'm a hockey nerd, and I listen to this kind of stuff for fun. So
don't you also have a bunch of hockey books too? That
yeah,
you read about?
When I was a kid, I had nothing to do. I just read these books about hockey history and stuff. It was cool.
That's sick. I mean, speaking of books, I have a NHL team history book over there I'm reading. It's interesting too, learning about how the NHL formed in. You see, everybody talks about nowadays, you see on social media, it takes years and years for a business to start. The NHL started in the 1920s, and they tried expansion teams multiple times. We're talking many, many times in the 30s, 40s, 50s, up until
a team didn't stick around till 1965.
Right.
That's when I think the Blues and who was the other team? It was St. Louis and another team that was the first 2 expansion teams. I know St. Louis was one of. I think it was St. Louis and L.A. I could be wrong about L.A. though. I know St. Louis was definitely one of them because
L.A. was super early too.
Because there was a war, but the NHL couldn't decide.
Was it the Flyers?
I think it was the Flyers.
It was okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because the NHL couldn't decide between whether the Sabres, Buffalo was going to team or St. Louis, and St. Louis got a team that time, and then the next expansion, Buffalo got a team
with Vancouver at the same time. Wasn't Vancouver kind of middling? They were thinking about bringing Vancouver in with the Sabres the first time?
I'm not too sure about that. I know Buffalo, there was an ownership group in Buffalo that really, really wanted a team there.
They were pushing for a team hard.
Yeah, and they were probably going to get a team no matter what.
Yeah.
Vancouver, I mean, makes sense to have a team there. Fun fact about that expansion. So back in the day, they didn't have draft lottery, but part of the rules with the expansion was if it's a brand new team, they just got the first overall pick.
I didn't know that. No, I don't think it ever mentioned that in the book. So that's news
so they had so when Buffalo and Vancouver joined, you know what they did to decide who got the first pick?
What was that?
They spun a wheel.
Just a wheel with those 2 teams on it?
Mm-hmm. And it had numbers, and I believe it was either I get mixed up sometimes. Buffalo had all the even numbers, and Vancouver had all the odd numbers, and whatever it landed on got the first overall pick in the draft.
Okay.
And they spun the wheel, and I believed it landed on a number with a 0, and Vancouver thought they won because it was 30 or something. It was oh, it's odd number. Everybody's no, it's 30. That's an even number. Mm-hmm. We won, and so the Sabres got Gilbert Perreault.
The rest is history.
Do you even know who the second overall pick was? Because I don't. That's all that matters, right?
Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I wonder if there's any Vancouver Canucks fans that are listening or watching right now that genuinely know that.
They probably do, yeah. I mean, I don't. I'm curious about that now. I'm going to look that up.
I mean, I never knew that. That's an interesting way. I mean, it makes sense though. Like, it makes it odd though. I honestly thought you were gonna say like they flipped a coin or something because it's
No.
so old back then.
Yeah, let me. Look. I know Joe Dale Talon. So not a bad second overall pick.
No, it's not.
He was a good player.
I mean, definitely not like a player you look back on as like, why the hell did we pick him type of thing. But I mean, the Sabres got a Hall of Famer. They
got
first
one of the-
part of a French Connection line that they had.
He is the Buffalo Sabre.
He is,
He still might be
yes.
the best Buffalo Sabre of all time.
Was he the first captain of the
I
Sabres?
don't believe
or was he not a
so.
captain at all?
He was eventually the captain, but I don't believe he was the first captain. I don't remember who the first
Yeah,
captain was.
I
I
have
don't
no
know
idea
that,
either.
but
No.
Barreau is not the first
No.
captain.
You mentioned that you think he's the best Sabre of all time over
Yeah.
guys like Hasek and
Mm-hmm.
Pat LaFontaine, McGillney, all of them?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't want to say I disagree or don't disagree because like honestly like I would have to look more deep into it because I'm more of a McGillney and LaFontaine and Hasek know more.
I
of,
mean,
but
I can
know
make the
Perreault-
argument for Hasek. He's definitely the best goalie of all time in that organization. But I think Gilbert Perreault, he is like the prototypical like Buffalo Sabre.
What do you when you think of the Sabres, do you think of Perreault and you think of the French Connection?
I
in my
mean, maybe not people our age because we didn't grow up with it.
Well,
Just-
like we also have
I
like
mean, when I think of the Sabres, I think of like when they were good when we were young.
Mhm.
Not because I wasn't around in the 70s and the 80s when Perreault and the French Connection were playing or when Hasek was playing.
Mhm.
So I think about the era of hockey I grew up in. But if you look at it through historically, the best era of hockey for the Sabres was when Jobo Perreault was playing.
Their best era was between 1972
They were in the
and
playoffs.
1985.
They were in the playoffs every single year. They
Yeah.
made it they made it to the Stanley Cup final in 1975.
Mhm.
They lost. You hear about the Fog
Yeah, I
game,
do
the
know
Flyers
all
and the
about that.
Sabres. Yeah. So yeah, no, but Joe Perreault arguably is the greatest Sabre
Yeah,
ever.
I mean, you brought up a good point there where, you know, people our age, we think of Briere, Derek Roy, Drury,
That's what we grew
Vanek,
up
Miller,
with,
right?
yeah.
Like, that's what we grew up with. Like, you have to look like people that are like our parents' age. How old are your parents, if you don't mind me asking?
Like in the 60s, yeah.
So they probably think about the French Connection and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But like my parents are a little bit younger. They're like in their mid 40s, like I think 45 or something. is
They're
my
probably
mom.
like Pat
Right,
LaFontaine, Hasek,
exactly.
those
Think
guys,
of
yeah.
they grew more in the 90s. So again, it's all about who you speak to. And going back to expansion, and you brought up how you weren't really a fan of expansion. I'm like on the fence because like I'm like this is sick. Like I want to see like more teams, but at the same time though, you look at it from the fact of well then. Do you think that league gets just too watered down, and not only on top of it, but also too many teams? Like at some point, you're gonna like you have half of the league missing the playoffs now. You're gonna add one more team making the playoffs in each conference.
I think they'd have to rework how the playoffs
they
work.
would. And I was thinking about this earlier. Would they end up if they let's say added I don't know Houston and Atlanta for example, right?
Mhm.
I mean. However they want to do it, if they want to go to 36 teams, I wonder if Nashville ends up eventually getting put in the East because like they're so far away from feels like every team in the West at this point. Like they're kind of in the same situation where Columbus and Detroit were before.
I mean, the one thing is they're in the central time zone,
That's
so that
fair.
complicates things a little bit. Because weren't the four teams that were rumored that the NHL wants to expand to? I know Houston and Atlanta, and then it was New Orleans and Arizona.
Yes.
So it would honestly probably be Nashville or New Orleans if New Orleans got a team that would be moving into the Eastern Conference.
If I'm doing it geographically, I would move Nashville, but again, like both.
I mean, Nashville's like right by the time zone marker.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, New Orleans is just a little bit.
It's a little bit
west.
further west.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they're also closer to like Dallas.
like very close to Houston.
Very close. So if they
Yeah.
add a team in Houston, now there's two teams right there.
Mhm.
And then, I mean, Nashville's really only close to like St. Louis, but even then, like New Orleans is kind of that middle ground. Like they're both kind of equals, New Orleans and Nashville from
Yeah.
St. Louis. So, I mean, the Central Division is just so spread out too.
I
because
think
it's
they'd have
in-
to redo the divisions if they did 36 teams. Honestly,
Are we thinking adding, like doing the divisions like smaller divisions and
I
stuff?
think it would have to be smaller divisions, especially. I think this is a good point to another thing Gary Bettman brought up is they want to maybe add more games to the schedule, get rid of a couple preseason games, and make the regular season 84 games instead of 82. And teams say they want more rivalry games, right?
Yes.
So that would make perfect sense then. You know, if you're going to add 4 more teams to redo the divisions to make rivalries even more important. Because that was back in the day when they had 6 divisions on each conference. You were playing like Buffalo was playing Toronto 6 times, 7 times a year.
Yeah. They'd play a team like Ottawa 6 times in a season. Now in the second round or Eastern Conference Finals, they're facing off again for what 6, 7 games,
Mm-hmm.
multiple times.
That's why those teams like hated each other
Yes,
because
like
they couldn't get away from each other.
yes, and then like teams like we saw Detroit and Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of all. There was Pittsburgh and Philly. So like the list goes on. Like there were those rivalries where they'd face so much in the regular season and then face
They would
again.
carry over to the playoffs, especially
Exactly.
if both the teams were good.
Yes, exactly.
It'd be a
you
war.
have you have let's say in the second round you have a third seed against a fifth seed Pittsburgh and Philly, and then you have a second and fourth seed Buffalo and Ottawa. Like those teams hate each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I would love more rivalries.
I'm all for that for more rivalry games. I think it gets more people in the building, even if it's a bad team. Like, oh, like we're playing this team. Like, I got to see it.
Even if Philly and Buffalo are bad, but then Pittsburgh and Toronto are like really good. I'm not saying Pittsburgh's going to be good in the next round.
Just example.
Yeah. Like you still get people in there because it's still a rivalry game. Like it doesn't feel the same now because you have teams like I'll keep the same example. Let's say Buffalo and Toronto. Like Buffalo fucking sucks this year, and Toronto is right now tied for the first Atlantic spot as of this recording. Like it doesn't feel like a rivalry because Toronto fans take over Buffalo, and Buffalo is so bad we don't want to go to games.
It's like a good analogy for this is like the Bills and the Dolphins. Like the Dolphins, it's a rivalry. It's like you've beat us once in the last like 7 years.
Josh Allen's 11-1 in his
What are
career.
you talking about? It's not a rivalry.
Right, it's a rivalry if both teams like hate each other. But
if they're splitting games,
mm-hmm.
but if one team's consistently kicking the other team's ass, it's not a rivalry. I don't care.
Exactly. It's just.
A good rivalry for the Sabres is the draft lottery. That's a really good rivalry for them.
You know what? That's a good point.
And the Sabres are getting their ass beat by the draft lottery.
I mean, right now they have the best odds for the 5th overall pick, and they'll probably get 8th. They'll somehow drop 3 spots. Anyways, yeah. So it's intriguing to me because I don't mind the lengthened season, but also
I don't mind that either.
That also means a shortened preseason. The season will start in late September, which it felt like a lot of the GMs when they went over it at the GMs meeting in Florida a couple weeks ago, where they were kind of for it. But
I do think the preseason for the NHL is too long.
I agree. I think so. What was it? 7 games, 8 games,
something like that.
Like that's way too long. Like I get having. You need some actual game action.
Well, yeah, you got to get them back in game shape, and get them up to speed.
Do it like 4 games, 5 games max. I think like you don't need it an even number. Like you don't need 6 games. I think 6 is too much. I think leave it at 5. You get a few games like going into the season. Let's say the last 2 games, right? Most of your NHL roster guys going, and then like the first 3 games is like, all right, here's fringe roster guys or AHL vets. Let's see if you can crack the final few spots going into the season. And I think that's how preseason should be. Like the NFL does a great example of this where I know you can't do it in the NHL because you don't have like backups and stuff. Like you can't bring scratch guys onto the ice. But like the NFL, it's like certain teams have certain players like their starters or whatever that are going to be on the roster play certain times, and the rest of the time is for guys that are on the bubble of the roster. Let's see if you can impress me enough to make the final 53.
I mean, the NHL they kind of do that in the NHL too with like the first couple preseason games. They'll have a couple vets in there, but it will mostly be young players and AHL guys that like every few years like you got a really good story coming out of a camp that like a player who's been in the AHL for like his whole career, a rookie that you didn't think had a chance to make the team ends up making the team because they have a really good camp and a really good preseason. Like last year, a good example with the Sabres is Zach Benson. He made the team out of camp. No one saw that coming.
Yeah, and I think that having the shortened preseason, like okay, let me reword this because I lost my train of thought. So the one thing that I don't like about teams, I know it depends on like the team schedule where they're in the preseason, but like you have a team that puts out mostly AHL guys or fringe guys, and then you have an entire team icing NHL guys. And at one end of the spectrum, if you're the team, like, we want to see how you look against other NHL guys because it's a much different game playing against half of their roster, which is NHL guys, and then the other half is AHL guys, or then another team where it's basically playing up against guys you played with the last 2-3 years, however the fuck you are. So from that aspect, it's a good evaluation. But as like a fan, it's like, I get it's only preseason, but I don't want to see a team like get killed like 6-1 in preseason, and that team that put up 6 goals is NHL vets who have been in the league for years, and then it's like, here's this 22-year-old who's getting 15 minutes time on ice in preseason, but can barely show what he has because they don't have the puck at all.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I usually like going to a preseason game just because, like, oh, hockey's back, let's go, and then I'll leave like after the third period starts.
Yeah, we went to a preseason game this year. It was the Penguins one. Did I go with you to that one?
That
Or was it
sounds vaguely
Chris?
familiar.
It was
It's
six
when
to what was the 6-1?
yeah, I
one?
went with you.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
okay.
Pittsburgh was playing like their AHL team, and the
Yeah.
Sabres like had their whole full
Yeah.
roster up.
Shout out to Jesse Pugliarvi getting a hattie in that game too. But also he got like 2 of those goals when it was already like 5 or 6-1 or whatever.
Yeah, no, it was not a close game.
No, like that's what I kind of referring to. It's like I get it's preseason, so I shouldn't care. Like I really shouldn't.
I
care,
mean,
but-
I would have cared for the Sabres if they would have lost that game.
I
'cause
mean,
if you have your full opening night roster playing against the AHL Penguins, you should kick their ass.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong by that. But wouldn't that? I don't know. I'm very intrigued to see what the NHL changes to because these changes aren't taking effect next season. If anything happens,
it'll be
it's
even a
gonna
new CBA.
Yeah, it's going to be the new CBA, which is what 26, 27.
Yeah, they
season's the
said they're going to
first
start negotiating this summer. Hopefully, there's no. I don't think there's any threat of a lockout.
No,
it doesn't
there's
sound
not.
like it. It sounds
No.
like the players' union in the NHL are in a good place right now. Not like it was when in 20. I remember that shortened season that sucked.
Which one? 2012 one?
Yeah, when they only played a 48 game season because they almost missed the season.
I remember I hated that. And like being a kid and like loving video games, like Chow came out at the scheduled time and I'm sitting here, I'm like, dude, it's a full 82 games. Like I wanted to be realistic. I'm like, give me the fucking like 48 game season.
I think they did have the option to do shorter seasons in like franchise mode and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, you can choose how many games a season is now.
Yes, sir.
Maybe that was a response to that. I don't know.
I don't I don't know.
That's weird. I don't know if I care about that.
No, that's like I'm a type of person like in a video game, like I want it as realistic as possible. I mean, that might be a little bit weird.
You're asking a lot for that in an NHL game.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's EA Sports. It's in the game.
First, they
type
have to
shit.
figure out how to get the fucking skating right.
I want to talk a little bit about the All-Star game because the NHL has had serious talks about removing it. However, though, they're still having it next season, and you brought up a good point. It's like the Olympics are next year, the winter ones. Like, why have the All-Star game 3 weeks before the NHL players go play in the Olympics?
Well, typically, in the past, when players go to the Olympics, they don't have an All-Star game.
Yeah, like,
that is the break.
And, like, this All-Star game was announced, I think, before Four Nations was announced.
Yeah, I'm not sure when that was announced.
No idea.
I just assumed automatically. I think it was was it last summer they announced NHL players are going back to the Olympics?
Yeah.
That there's just going to be no All-Star game in 2026.
And the NHL came out saying after like all the meetings, like they're still having it in New York. I think the Islanders are hosting it,
yeah.
and they're already promoting it to like season ticket holders and this stuff. And the NHL's like, yeah, we're not going to cancel. I'm like, okay, well, NHL players. Are they really going to even want to go? Like, they're even talking about changing it. Like, we won't know about changing it until
before the playoffs start.
before the playoffs start. Okay. So that's going to be
So we
interesting.
should know in a
to
few
see.
weeks.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. I don't know how much more you can change about the All-Star game. Though.
I honestly will go back to 5-on-5.
Would you go back to 5-on-5 with a draft
Yes.
too? A full. We're not talking about the stupid draft they had like what was it 2 years ago?
The one they had in Toronto was, oh my god, with the celebrity picks. That was so bad.
That was
It
so
so
forced.
bad.
So forced.
I
You didn't
I
need to
couldn't
do
watch it. I literally couldn't watch it.
I remember I was working and that was going on, and like I was like, okay, let me tune in, and I went on ESPN Plus, and most of the time it was just like the fucking analyst talking, and then they panned to like the celebrity the entire time until it was time to pick the player, and then they panned to the player when he was walking up, and then back to the celebrity. I'm like, dude, this is so forced.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like having the drafts in All-Star games. I think it's makes it a little bit more fun. I don't know, maybe have the fans pick draft the teams or something.
What? You know what? That's a good idea. I just don't know how it would work.
Well, it would be when the rosters are announced.
Okay.
Like, don't just have them pick
So
the
it'd
whole
be like
team.
a fan vote.
Yeah.
Okay, and then pick one player from the roster to be the captain? Or would they draft the teams themselves? Like, how would that?
I don't know, but I think it would be fun to have some fan input on there.
What if you just like did like a sweepstakes online or whatever, and whichever like 2 fans or whatever got to be.
No.
Sorry, that was off the top of my head. That was
I
bad.
do think they should have some kind of fan vote again, just for like where you could vote for literally any player in the league and they're guaranteed to be in the All-Star game.
I don't mind that. Call me a traditionalist. I wouldn't mind them just going back to East and West. And
I'd be okay with that too.
Get rid of the we want one player from each team. No, the best players in each conference face off in a 5v5 full roster.
I mean, it didn't used to be that way. Like, it wouldn't be unheard of for like multiple teams to not have any players in the All-Star game.
Like back the All-Star game way back then. I remember very, very distinctly. Not distinctly. That means really good. I barely remember it. Where watching the All-Star game, where like on versus, you'd have like the East versus West, and it just brings back a lot of nostalgia. And maybe it's just a nostalgia factor.
They had the same issues with the All-Star game than they do now. That players didn't really try.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's always been an issue with All-Star games.
Like no matter what, at this point, I think the right move is just to eliminate it. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. And like, even if you just make it like a 10-day break for the players just to recoup, like. As sure as like NHL fans and like people who cover the game, like that sucks. But at the same time, for the players though, like the players can just go and mentally reset for the last part of the season.
Now, let's say because the NHL is going to want to do a showcase of the best players and stuff like that.
It gives them more money.
What are your thoughts on doing like some like an in-season tournament like the NBA did?
I love that idea.
Do you think the players would care though?
I think it's been brought up with the NHL before, and I don't know. I don't know if the players would really, really care that much. But, it'd be sick, though. You know how we're, like, for those in-season tournament games and stuff, they change the court? They should do that for the ice.
Well, no. Yeah, let's make the ice black.
No, not black, but, like, a team like Tampa, for example, make the ice, like, checkered and, like, blue and stuff. Obviously, there would be lights under it.
That would be hideous to watch on TV. No. Most of the NBA courts look awful. Like, when the Lakers had it, like, they had, like, a pea yellow court.
It adds personality.
Okay.
I like it. I think it makes it unique. And maybe call me, I don't know. Call me whatever you want. I think it doesn't look that bad.
I don't know. I don't think the NHL should do an in-season tournament. I don't think it really would matter that much to me.
The players wouldn't like it. Maybe for the first season, maybe some of them would, but I think it just wear off a little bit. And although as a fan myself, like I would enjoy it, but again, you have to think about the players, have to think about the business. Like I think that they should just say screw the All-Star game. Let's do just like a skills showcase weekend because it feels like the players actually want to be involved with that. And I think it's a lot better than the All-Star game too. Like
I mean, the NFL kind of did that with the Pro Bowl where they switched to flag football and had like a more.
But also, they have fucking dodgeball in their skills competition.
A spread out skills competition, but the players have fun and like they enjoy being there. Like the NHL, I think it was the All-Star game in Vegas, the first one ESPN did. That might have been the worst one I've ever seen.
That was brutal. Like
just the players were not engaged. Even in interviews, the players were like giving like ask me a question to interview would ask. Like how did I feel out there tonight?
Yeah. So how did it feel going out there? Shooting at the net today.
Good.
So it really felt like that you came in second place in the fastest skate competition. Like, how are your legs feeling?
Fine.
That's crazy. Like,
that's how they were. That's how they were answering questions, though.
It's crazy. I had to come off the top of my dome for that. That was hard. I made that seem harder than what it actually was. But like,
even if they got like a good question, they would just say, "Yeah,
yeah, like
we're here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here." Like. And then just
the question. It's fun, playing with guys they don't play with.
And their defense, though, the questions were pretty awful.
I mean, it was ESPN's. ESPN has gotten better at covering hockey. I'll give them credit since the first year. It was rough the first year. So I believe TNT did the All-Star game last year.
Okay, I did not.
I don't know. I didn't watch it. So
I don't know. I only watched it for Tate McRae's concert, then I turned that shit off immediately. Oh, I guess not concert. Performance. You guys fucking know what I mean.
Same fucking thing.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into some actual news that has happened over the week. Biggest news of the week. Landeskog is doing actual team drills now with the Colorado Avalanche. He is skating. He's adamant that he wants to return this season. This is going to be interesting because even if he's half of what he was, the Colorado Avalanche are going to be a juggernaut if they aren't already. And I think his statement behind why he wants to return, he wants to do it for his family, or he said something along those lines.
Maybe he just wants to prove it to himself that he could do it.
That's true. Can do everything. Like, just prove he can come back. And originally, I saw a clip that said that this knee injury was only supposed to be like a 6-week rehab or something, and he didn't feel comfortable putting, like, a bunch of weight and effort into his knee and, like, cutting and stuff. So it's been 2.5 years now. And I mean, he played with it for a season and a half. He ended up getting it. I think during the shortened season in 2021, he took like a skate blade to the back of the knee. And
Yeah, it was McCarr. Yeah, it was
yeah,
like a freak accident.
yeah, and I remember he played through it in the entire 2022 Cup run, and then it was announced he was gonna have surgery right after. It's like, you know what? It's gonna miss the start of the season. He'll be back by Christmas, and then just kept dragging on. It's like he's not gonna be ready.
Didn't he run into some kind of issue,
Yeah,
like
he ran
recovery?
into. Yeah,
Like
he
he had to
had.
have surgery again.
I think he had like 3 or 4 other knee procedures.
Yeah.
So, which is absolutely nuts. But you know what? I'm so here for it.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean
happy.
that would be huge if he could get back in time. Sure, I think if he really is coming back, we'll probably in a week or two see him being sent down to the AHL on a conditioning stint just to get some games underneath his belt,
Yeah.
just get back into it. But I mean, can you imagine like just plugging him into your bottom six for now until like he's comfortable? You have
Dude,
Landeskog in your bottom six.
You have your centers now. If he comes back as Landeskog, Nelson, Coyle, and Nelson. Sorry, I almost said Landeskog twice. Did I say all 4 players?
You say McKinnon?
I said McKinnon, Coyle, Nelson, and then Landeskog. Yeah, okay.
That would be pretty nutty.
That's nuts. And then just a month ago, not even like 3 weeks ago, your top 2 centers were McKinnon, Casey Middlestad, and then you had Jack. Oh yeah, they still have Jack Drury
Yeah,
too.
he's playing on the fourth line. Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
I mean, we'll see
Oh.
how effective he'll be. It's tough to come back after not playing for over 2 years. I mean, the good thing is he has plenty of time just to get his back into game shape, and he's doing team drills, which is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one benefit that the Avalanche would have is they wouldn't need him. They wouldn't need him to be huge for them right away.
Props
Like-
to Chris McFarland. I mean, he's done a phenomenal job with the Avalanche building this team. Like I think he has like 8 new players on the team than he did.
I mean, shout out to Jared Bednar too. Like, when you have that many changes and that many players coming in, learning your system to get them in seamlessly like that, like that's no small feat.
This also proves the great leadership that McKinnon and McCarr and the rest of the guys
Yeah.
have. And I mean, they also the start of the season they were decimated with injuries. Like right off rip, Miles Wood, Ross Colton, whoever else. I'm just going off the top of my head. Sorry, guys.
And they also had no goaltending.
Yes, they had horrible goaltending. They had made 2 goaltending trades. They ended up getting Scott Wedgwood from Nashville, and then shortly after Mackenzie Blackwood, Georgiev went in that trade.
Honestly, it feels like their GM makes moves like he's playing like franchise mode in Shell, where he just like fixes shit on the fly and says, "Okay, we need a goalie. You got 2
I
now."
mean, yes, that's how a GM should be. Like, you shouldn't fucking wait.
I mean, they have like no draft picks.
Listen, if you're a team like Colorado who has cup aspirations, fuck them picks.
Yeah.
Like I think there's like probably 6 teams in the league right now that I say that you truly can trade away any draft pick you want and it won't matter.
Yeah, I mean,
Tampa Bay clearly is one of those teams, by the way.
yeah, they sold the farm.
Again.
I mean, sometimes it pays off, like Brandon Hagel, where they gave up 2 firsts for him.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it does it with Tanner Jeannot.
Yeah, I mean, they also gave up 5 draft picks for a 4th line grinder. Rough, all because they wanted to get a little bit tougher. But yeah, Seguin also started skating too with the Stars. He's been out since early November. He is looking to come back by game 1. This is going to be another huge depth add for the Stars.
I swear, if the Avs and the Stars play each other in the first round of the playoffs, oh my goodness.
Minnesota's not too far back from Colorado, and they're killing Buffalo as of the last time I checked.
Mean, that's a free win.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that game's over.
The game started at 2.
Yes, Wild won 4-1.
Okay, how far are they back now from Colorado?
2 points.
2 points. Games in hand now for either team?
They both played 70.
Okay.
But Avalanche played a night.
Okay. So by the end of tonight, dude, huge game for Colorado again. Minnesota's back on their ass. It felt like Colorado was on their ass, but
I mean, Colorado had there was a pretty decent gap between them, and Colorado went on a tear after the deadline. Yeah.
Yeah, and if Dallas ends up facing Colorado in the first round, that's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be an absolute bloodbath.
Especially if you get Landeskog back for the Avs and Seguin back for Dallas. Oh my, that shouldn't be a first round match.
Dude, it's gonna be worse than Dallas Vegas last year, I think.
Yeah.
And not worse as in like performance wise. It's gonna be a better series, but worse as in like these teams are gonna fucking kill each other.
Oh, if I'm the Jets after you beat whatever team gets the last wild card spot in 5, you're just watching that series with a big ass smile on your face.
You're sitting there like we have 6 days off, 7 days off, and we get to watch these 2 teams kill each other. Now they're all like bruised up and beat up and shit, and you get home ice advantage. And Dude, playoffs in Winnipeg is different. It is different.
Yeah, no, they packed the
So,
barn. Yeah,
If Dallas ends up getting Seguin back, that's a huge boost for them too because they're
I
already
don't even know who I'd pick to win that series.
Colorado and Dallas.
Yeah,
I think you just flip a coin and whatever lands on you, fucking pick that team.
in 7.
Yes, in 7. Like if that comes down to it for predictions, the night before when we're doing like our prepping for the episode, I'm gonna flip a coin for myself. I'm gonna say, let's say Colorado's heads, Dallas' tails. It lands on heads. I'm picking Colorado in
Yeah,
7
I
games.
genuinely don't know who I'd pick to win that series.
I think that series, if New Jersey and Carolina match up, which is looking like they're going to, if they match up in the first round, those are the 2 series, and I'm like, flip
I'd
a
probably
coin.
lean Carolina in
Yeah,
that one.
it's not as close as Dallas and Colorado, but yeah, like you said, that series shouldn't be a first round matchup, but that series is going 7 games unless one of those 2 teams puts on the Jets and decides to kill the other team. And you know what I think comes down in that series? I think the X factor might be goaltending.
I agree with you.
I think are you gonna get the Ottinger that can win you games, or are you gonna get the Ottinger where you take a shot from the wing and it just goes in? And then for the Avalanche, Mackenzie Blackwood gets his first taste of NHL playoff action in the last few years. He's been phenomenal for them. Is he going to live up to it? Is he going to play great hockey again?
Honestly, I know Dallas has great depth, and they have a great team. But I think I would have to give the edge to the team that has not Connor. Pretty much the same player, right? Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar.
I would love to go Colorado, but I picked Dallas to win the Cup, so I'd stick with my guns.
I mean, you can't go wrong with either one of them. I mean, we'll see if they end up playing each other.
If anything goes less than 7 games, I'd be like, I'm surprised.
I think the only way it doesn't go 7 is if like Jake Ottinger or Blackwood like play like complete dog shit.
Yeah. Or one of I don't want to speak it into existence. Never mind. Don't want to.
I think it would take like a horrific goaltending performance from one of the goalies for that to not be a 7-game series.
Or an injury.
Yeah, or like a major injury to like a superstar. Yeah.
I'm not going to say any names because, again, I don't want to speak it into existence. I want a great series. So, what do you want to talk about? The Caps clinching or the Sabres' own goal?
Let's start out. Congratulations, Washington. First team to clinch a playoff spot. Interestingly enough, they have pretty much the same record as the Jets. The Jets have not clinched a playoff spot yet, which tells you
can tonight.
They can tonight, but they haven't yet, which tells you the difference between the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference.
The Western Conference is
a little bit better,
much more top heavy from 1 through 8.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone saw this coming with the Capitals, being potentially winning the President's Trophy this year.
It's nuts.
Let alone we both thought they were going to make the playoffs.
We both had them as a wild card team in the East.
Neither one of us would have picked them to win the division or even sniff a President's Trophy.
I'm calling out Chris right now. Gonna do it because this legitimately. So I was laying in bed and this comment kind of pissed me off. So he goes into me, Chris, and Preston. I have like our little own group chat in Discord for the podcast. He goes, so the Caps clinched the playoff spot. I bet neither of you guys said this at the beginning of the season. No fucking
Nobody
shit.
did. Nobody.
Not
even the biggest diehard Capitals fan would have predicted this.
There is no need for that comment, and I kind of felt bad after because I was like kind of getting snippy. I was like, but at the same time, I was like, nobody fucking did. Like, you couldn't have come in there and been like, you know what? Caps first team to clinch the playoff spot.
Yeah, I think I even put it as like, I didn't think that Logan Thompson would be elite and would be playing like he's 30 years old.
When I read that, I was like, this dude has some sass behind that right now.
Oh, there was, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sitting here, I'm like, dude, if you said that about the Capitals, I want to see it on record right now.
Yeah, nobody said that.
Nobody said that. And if you said that, you should go make money.
If you said that, you're probably a diehard Capitals fan. That would just like being completely delusional at the beginning of the season.
Imagine there was some like non-Capitals fan that said that, and everybody's like, "You're an idiot! Like they're gonna be a wild card team at best," and then here they are. That'd be wild.
But congrats to Washington for. I'm still don't know how I feel about them going to the playoffs.
We have to be kind of sold on them at this point.
They're gonna at least be a second-round team.
I think they get the Metro is gonna be the Metro bracket in the playoffs is gonna be so weak. I think they get to the Eastern Conference Finals.
We'll see
because of that.
I think Carolina will give them a good run just because
for sure.
they play so strictly defensively.
Yeah.
But let's get back onto the funny news of the week. So the Buffalo Sabres just keep finding a way for it to get worse.
I don't even want to say I'm surprised at this point.
So, for those of you that don't know, it kind of went viral the last couple of days. Sabres were playing Utah in Utah. Sabres down late by a goal. Pretty even game. Sabres have pulled their goalie about a minute and a half left in the game, and Utah does one of the worst things you can do in that situation. It takes a penalty. So Sabres clearly have no idea that there's a delayed penalty. So Tage Thompson's skating up to the blue line. He's looking to pass it to Dahlin, misses him. It goes back and keeps just going and going. It goes right into their own net. And Utah, the guy who actually got credit for the goal, I can't remember his name. He got a penalty and a goal at the same time on the score sheet.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
The best part of this whole thing is if you haven't seen it, I really encourage you guys go watch it. It's the Sabres broadcast of the play where you have Rob Ray screaming at the team, give him the puck, because you just give the other team the puck.
I'm gonna try to find the audio for you guys and throw it in this episode so you guys
Be
can
careful.
listen
The
to it.
NHL might claim that.
You know what? You're right. You guys can look it up. BR Open Ice ended up posting it on X. You guys can just honestly go on Google and search
It's
up
great.
Sabres
It was
own
all
goal.
over the place. Yeah.
Search up on Google Sabres own goal, and it'll come up right away. First thing.
Because, that's what you're supposed to
Dude,
do. Like, you have a minute and a half left. You pull your goalie. Just give them the puck so you have a full length of 6-on-4 hockey.
Rob Ray was going to crash out. He's sitting there. The second the penalty happens, give them the puck, give them the puck, give them the puck. And then Tage Thompson passed it. And it was funny because who is
Dan
it?
Dunleavy.
Dan Dunleavy. He's like, oh no. And then Rob Ray goes, give them. He was about to drop the F-bomb, dude. He was like, give them the puck. And I'm pretty sure the audio cut out. I think they
turned his mic off. Yeah.
That was the first thing I woke up to yesterday morning.
I didn't even know what happened. I went to bed and I saw the Sabres were losing. I was like, oh, they're gonna lose, okay. And I woke up in the next morning and I saw it on Reddit and I was like, what the fuck happened?
I get a text from my manager Matt, and he just goes ha 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 in all caps. I'm like, what? He was like, the Sabres, LOL, and I was like, I was sleeping. Like, what about them? I go on Instagram to look it up. First thing on my feed, BR Open Ice, Sabres own goal. Like, there's no fucking way. They allowed a goalie goal and they have an own goal in the same season. That's crazy.
If that doesn't sum up the Buffalo Sabres this year, I don't know what else can.
That is the Sabres season.
Just a little zero awareness on the ice. That I don't even think they knew there was a penalty being called. Like,
No.
I genuinely don't think they had any idea.
Tage said that he had no idea. Post-game presser. And what's crazy to me too is, so we know about the Sabres' inconsistencies all season. They got off to a rough start, went down 1-0. They scored a beautiful goal. JJ Peterka from Zucker and somebody else, and then they had that own goal. That's the Sabres' season in a nutshell. They don't look great one time. They look great another time, and then another stretch, they just look completely like dog shit.
Like when they didn't win a game for a month?
Yeah, from Thanksgiving to Christmas.
Yeah.
Basically it was.
I still think the worst moment for them this entire season was when they blew a 4-0 lead against the Avalanche.
That was the breaking point of the season, mentally, for that team.
It broke me.
I remember watching that game, and I was actually like not doing anything watching the game. We were up 4-0, and I saw it. I go on to throw like a video game or something to play Fortnite. I don't play that game anymore, by the way. But I was playing Fortnite, and I still have it in the background, and somebody calls me up. He's like, let's get on like bet. So I turn the game off. I'm like, you know what? This game is over.
It's 4-0. It's over. You should
win.
Yeah.
And this was going into the third period too. It's like 4-1 going into the third. I'm like, there's no way we blow this. And I'm getting notifications. Sabres 4-2 and 4-3. And then Elliot Friedman tweeted something out, and I got the notey, and he goes, there was like X amount of time, and Colorado has made it a 1-goal game. I'm like, there's no fucking way. And it was like, I think at this point, was this game a 6-5 game? No, this game was in regulation. Sorry.
Yeah, Colorado won 5-4 in regulation.
And then they went to Colorado a week and a half later and blew another lead. They had to come back from that lead that they blew, tied it within the last like couple minutes, and then they lost the game in overtime in Colorado 6-5.
I think that one might have been regulation too.
No, that was overtime.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was at that game in person, man.
I bet you the car ride home was completely
We didn't say a damn word to each other the whole way back to the car.
That was... I'd be sitting there and like...
Because we thought we were going to get our ass kicked, to be honest with you, walking into the game.
Mm-hmm.
And we went up 4-0 in the first period. We're like, shit, we won.
Like we couldn't sit back, relax. Enjoy
Yeah,
the
that's
game?
pretty much. And they scored a goal like right at the end of the like right at the beginning of the second. I was like, okay, it's one goal.
You're right.
We weren't
this
weren't
point-
going to shut out the Avalanche.
At this point, we didn't know what it was going to be for the Sabres season to have a goalie get yanked from the net and then, lose.
Yeah, then they scored the second goal, and I was like, wait. And I started getting a little nervous. Then it was 4-3, and I was like, they're not fucking doing
because
this.
they
They're
scored
not
that
fucking...
third goal like a minute and a half into the third period.
Yeah, and I was like, they're not doing this. They're not doing this. And then they tied it with like 10 minutes left, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And then they scored again. Yeah. I literally, I had my hat on. I literally threw it on the ground. I covered my face, and I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Did it, for me personally, at the end of the first, where it felt like McCarr and McKinnon, when they were out there for like the last 2 minutes of the first,
they were dominating.
They were getting the momentum for the team. And at that point, you can feel it shifting. You're like, you know what? Maybe this Colorado team is going to make this a game. And then the start of the second, I think it was happening a little bit. But then the Sabres started to get a little bit of momentum back. But then Colorado got that second goal, and it was a complete mess.
Yeah, no, that's what summed up the season for me for the Sabres. I canceled my season tickets.
Love it.
Yeah. My rep called me yesterday. He just wanted to know if there's any change of heart, and I said, no, I can't do it anymore.
Did he sit there and be like, I understand it?
Yes, he completely understood. He was like, what are some of your reasons? Like, well, the team's not good. It's expensive. I can't go to every game, and I don't want to go to every game because they suck. He's like, yeah, I've gotten a lot of that.
Yeah.
He didn't even try to convince me to keep him.
Don't they make like commission off of like?
I don't know how it works. I just there was nothing he could have told me.
Yeah.
Unless
to convince you.
like $1,000 off probably would have convinced me, but
yeah, but then that bring it down.
Realistically, there was nothing he could have told me that would have considered me to keep my tickets.
Yeah, and I mean, next year if they're good, like who the fuck cares?
That's I mean, that's what I said. Like if they start playing better, like I'll reconsider. But right now, like financially, just does not make sense for me.
Right, and if they're good next season, let's say hypothetically, I don't think they're gonna be. But let's say that hypothetically they're good next season. Like fuck it, are you gonna renew or are you gonna wait another?
I'm going to give it like 2 or 3 years. I want to see consistency.
Yeah, I mean, you and Chris both got seasons after that 1 point missed playoff season.
That was our first year.
That was your first year.
Yeah, because they were kind of on the come up like the year before where they had a really good end of the year with Granado. And we were like excited. So it was like, fuck it, let's do it. Really good first year having season tickets. That was exactly what we thought. We missed the playoffs by 1 point. I was like, we're good. Like, we're going to make the playoffs next year. Yeah.
Yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that meme? It's just like a horse standing on a beach, and it just says the caption "man."
No, I haven't.
I'm gonna pull it up for you real quick.
Yeah, I'm not a huge meme guy. Like I don't see memes around actually.
This is a kind of an older one.
Are you referring to like this is the Sabres or like you guys or?
This is my reaction to me when I watch the Sabres play.
That's so depressing.
It's just a horse standing on a beach, just looking at the waves in the ocean. This is me. It's like, man,
I wish.
What am I doing?
I mean, you're making a great investment on not having season tickets anymore.
I couldn't even sell the tickets to most of the games. I didn't, unless they were playing like a good team or a team like fans travel well. No one was, but I would like have to give them away.
Nobody wants them.
Yeah, like I would put them up for $20 and they wouldn't sell.
Right, like it's
like I get the Sabres suck, but it's NHL hockey.
You don't. Some people are just Sabres fans. They're not hockey fans.
I don't know. I mean, even for my Toronto game this year, I had a tough time selling my tickets.
Really? I'm shocked by that. I'm really shocked.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing Toronto again in a couple of weeks in Buffalo. I'm trying to sell my tickets. I haven't sold them yet. So.
80% Leafs fans.
I mean, we'll see how many Canadians actually come over the border now.
That's true. Canadians hate America now. Don't want to get into that. But one more piece of news. Draisaitl and McDavid out minimum of a week, but I think they're getting more testing today, and we'll find out before this episode comes out the extent of it. So we won't have the length of the injuries now. But if they're out a decent bit, we're talking like if they're out like 3 to 5 weeks or so.
If they're out that long, they're
getting the third spot in the Pacific.
Yep.
And if they are out for any part of the playoffs, this team's fucked. And Stuart Skinner got hurt too, but he's been playing like ass. But
yeah, but they still need him.
I mean, yeah,
he's better than Picard.
Yeah, he is. This team runs on. You know that meme like this team runs on Duncan? Well, it's not a meme; it's a catchphrase. The Oilers are like this team runs on McDavid and Dry.
Okay, I'm not sure if you're gonna understand. I'm trying to think of a way I can put this analogy with how this team is built. I'm trying to think of another sports team that kind of had a similar build to that, and they couldn't win, and then they got rid of one of them, and then all of a sudden they won.
And then all of a sudden they won.
Because my issue with the Oilers is I think it's just with how the team is built. They know they have the two of the best players. They might have the two best players in the world on their team, and that's a great thing to have. But I don't think they've done a good enough job surrounding them with the right pieces to lead to more team success. Because let's face it, most nights, like if McDavid or Draisaitl aren't going, the Oilers aren't not winning.
No,
Mind you, that's not very many nights because at least 99% of the time, one of them's gonna be on their game.
Correct. Yes. Oh, that has me wondering now what team in any sport, NHL or any of the other.
I mean, the one
sports.
team I could think of was maybe like with the Toronto Raptors when they had DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, and they traded DeRozan, and they got Kawhi Leonard, and then they won the finals.
That one season they win the finals. I'm not gonna call it a Mickey Mouse because I don't
that
care.
was the Lakers. That was the Lakers when they won.
No, I'm talking about the Mickey Mouse because
when
everybody
everyone on the Warriors got hurt.
But
yeah.
also, again, injuries happen part of sports. Like you play what you're given, right? The hand that you're given. So again,
and they still had a good team.
They had a great team. Yeah, Kawhi was phenomenal in that entire playoff run. So that's actually a good analogy. And I don't think that really happens in baseball because baseball you actually need a team.
Yeah, and there's no salary cap.
Right.
It's very different how you build your team in baseball.
Right. I'm trying to in the NFL that hasn't really
happened. I think a really good example of this is Dylan Holloway in St. Louis.
Yes.
He was a first-round pick by the Oilers. They literally couldn't re-sign him because they had no cap space. It got to a point where they were better off. Like St. Louis signed him to an offer sheet. Him and was it Philip Broberg?
Yeah.
Who's been pretty decent for the St. Louis too. They signed him to an offer sheet, and then Edmonton was better off getting the picks and signing him because they literally would be over the cap if they signed him.
They would have been we're talking $5 to $7 million over the cap.
I think they were really considering keeping one of them, but there was never two of them. Both of them were never an option, and I think they ended up getting a second-round pick for each of them. And Holloway has 40-something points this year, and he's been a pretty good secondary scorer for the Blues.
Oh, he has I think 54, but he has 48 in his last 48 games.
Yeah, he's been very good for the Blues.
He's been phenomenal, and one of the reasons why the Blues are, competing for a playoff spot. They're back in it. They've been great.
The Oilers could really use somebody like that on their team who has good secondary scoring.
He was pretty decent for them in the playoffs last year. Especially when they started to get hot in the playoffs, this team, we saw Dylan Holloway's speed.
But he was still really young.
He was.
He was just coming off his ELC.
Yeah. So,
I think he was a first-round pick 2020.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I knew he was young. I didn't know that he was a first-round pick, actually.
Yeah.
What do we think of... Ooh, no. Okay, I'm not going to go that far. I'm so sorry, guys. I was originally going to bring up, what do we think of a team like Vancouver, Calgary, if Edmonton just drops a bunch of games straight because they're missing?
I think the Oilers are still a playoff team. Like you're saying,
I'm not saying
catching
that
up
they're
from them in
not
the third and the Pacific?
Yeah. Well,
I don't see it happening.
Yeah, that's fair. They're definitely going to make the playoffs. They have a big enough lead.
Dylan Holloway was the 14th pick in the 2020 draft.
Okay.
He's 23 years old.
So St. Louis has him a great guy over there, and Broberg's super young too, I think, right?
Yeah, this is his third season in the NHL for Holloway. Broberg, I'm not sure.
Holloway is putting up career highs in every single stat. He's also getting a decent amount of ice time too out in St. Louis.
Yeah.
I do think the one problem with Edmonton, I get money's a little bit of an issue. Well, not a little bit. It's their biggest issue, but also depth. It's hard to build depth when you have a hard salary cap and you have
Philip Broberg was also a first-round pick. He was the 8th overall pick in the 2019 draft.
Okay, so he's young.
He's also 23 years old.
He's also 23.
And he's having the best year of his career so far, 22 points in 57 games, plus 13. So St. Louis might just got two really good players
for two
second-round picks, which is nothing.
Exactly. So, props.
That was a brilliant move by the Blues to kind of – because I don't know why another team didn't do that because the Oilers were handcuffed.
St. Louis.
There was a reason why neither one of them were signed because they literally couldn't afford it.
They literally couldn't. It wasn't because the Oilers didn't want to.
Yeah.
They didn't have the possible money to.
You're never giving up even unless they're horrifically bad. They're two young players coming off their EOC birth, both first round picks, one a top 10 pick. like they're not going to cost a lot for you to keep around. They're still young. They still got a lot to prove, but you don't just let them go.
Right. And if you let them go, you're an idiot of an organization.
Unless you're like acquiring other good
Mhm.
players, but they just gave them up for draft picks,
Yeah.
and then they traded the draft picks to get more depth because they had no fucking depth.
Because I don't get out of Edmonton.
They counted on Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson being
They
good.
have been worse than horrible. We're talking
Yeah.
horrendous. Skinner has been a healthy scratch at times. I think Arvidsson has dealt with injury issues
But
too.
he's not what he used to be.
No, not even close.
They were counting on him coming in on a cheaper contract, maybe having a renaissance year.
And they were looking at Skinner and be like, give us 25 goals this season, 2025.
Yeah.
And clearly
Like, be
it
a good
hasn't been
complement piece. Like, be
Yeah.
a good third line winger or second line winger.
Clearly it hasn't been. What's your opinion on Edmonton going into the playoffs real quick? Like, all right, let's talk if Edmonton has Draisaitl and McDavid available for game 1.
Okay, I'm sorry. So they got the Blues got Dylan Holloway and Broberg for a second and a third round
A
pick.
second and a third. So they only got 2.
They got a second round pick and a third round pick.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's rough. And now they're worth clearly way more.
Oh yeah.
Either-
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
So, what's your opinion on Edmonton going into the playoffs, knowing that, let's say Edmonton has Draisaitl and McDavid available for game 1?
Are they 100%?
Let's go like 80%, 85%.
I think they'll beat the Kings in the first round. After that, I don't know.
I mean, you're gonna need another ridiculous run from McDavid, Draisaitl, Stewart, Skinner.
Because I wouldn't say last year the Oilers going to the Cup final were frauds. Like they did.
No, they weren't.
They played good team hockey. I mean, their power play was lethal. But you saw in the Stanley Cup final, clearly Leon Draisaitl was not 100%.
He
Clearly.
was. I'm almost 100% certain that dude was like his body was broken. He was way under 50%.
Yeah, and then, first 3 games, the Panthers kind of erased McDavid.
Mm-hmm.
And the Oilers didn't really have a chance in those games without him. And then McDavid figured it out, got loose, got the game back to tied at 7, and then they kind of erased him again for Game 7. Is because if one of those 2 players aren't going, I don't think they really have a chance.
Not only that, but also Florida was home. They line match. The home team line matches. Every time McDavid's out there, Maurice was like, Barkov, you're out there.
Mm-hmm.
Every single shift.
I mean, McDavid did kind of get away from him in the 3 games before. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not saying physically away from him, but he was playing really, really,
But
really
also,
well.
it did feel like, though, at times where Maurice went out there, he's like, because they have such a big cushion in the lead, maybe they put out a guy, Barkov, Reinhardt, Verhaeghe, and
no.
put him out. No, not against him, but I'm talking about just like try to take advantage of like their lack of depth, see if they can get an advantage on the other guys. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And maybe McDavid saw that and he took over games 4 to 6, and then obviously game 7, Maurice is like, Barkov's out there every time McDavid is. Or Draisaitl.
I mean, I think that might have always been the plan but I mean, obviously when you have the games at Edmonton, the Oilers can get McDavid away from Barkov when they can. The Oilers would take advantage of that, but McDavid was just playing at a different level.
He was playing at a ridiculous level. I mean, losing the finals and getting the Conn Smythe is unheard of.
Yeah, and what was the last time it happened? Was J.S. Shiger won it for the Ducks.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. But no, I mean, I'm sure the Panthers were like, it's the Stanley Cup final. I don't think they give a fuck if they have a cushion. They just want to close it out.
Oh, no, of course. But, I mean, I probably worded my point really, really badly. Like,
I understood what you were saying.
Yeah.
Is like maybe trying different things.
But also, like, I kind of worded it, made it sound like the Panthers don't give a fuck because they're up 3-0. Like, clearly, they know no lead is safe.
Yeah, it's the Stanley Cup final. You just want to win.
Yeah.
Just get it over with.
Yeah. Maybe that's what I don't know exactly what happened. But maybe, again, they could get an advantage on their depth guys, and unfortunately, McDavid is too good where you can't do that. But also in Edmonton, they could throw out McDavid against the Panthers' third line, and all of a sudden McDavid has 2 goals in a period.
I'm very confident in saying that Connor McDavid is the only reason why the Oilers made the Stanley Cup final last year.
100%.
Stuart Skinner was good,
but
Connor McDavid was just different.
He was like, every player was here. McDavid was like up here type shit.
The problem is Florida had a team.
They had too much depth for the Edmonton Oilers to handle. And they also had the goaltending advantage. Although I give props to Stuart Skinner.
Oh, he played really well.
He played great, especially games 4 to 6. That entire Edmonton team played great.
Yeah, but McDavid was ridiculous.
Well, of course, McDavid. I think he had 7 points in those 3 games or 6 points. He was ridiculous. He carried that team.
That's what the Oilers need if they want to win
They
anything
need
this
a
year.
40 points in the playoff run for McDavid again.
And they need Draisaitl to even be 50%.
Yes, 50%, give you 20 goals in the playoff run.
Even just be a decoy.
Just be a decoy. I love
Yeah.
that idea. That's going to end it for today's episode. If you guys enjoy all of our content, all of our socials are down below, as well as the subscribe button. If you guys are listening on Apple and Spotify, head over to our YouTube, subscribe there, click on our Instagram link down below for more exclusive content, and we'll see you guys in our next episode.